Well, deep in the woods north of Grand Rapids sits a state-of-the-art research project looking into the toll global warming is taking on our forests. It's one of the biggest studies of its kind, acting as a hypothetical forecast of what could happen as temperatures warm. Adam, you were just out in Grand Rapids getting a first-hand look at this, and it's fascinating the work they're doing out there.
Yeah, just tons of science going on in these biodomes.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is these scientists and researchers are finding out that something as simple as moss could totally change the course of climate change. A climate research facility just north of Grand Rapids is in its 7th year of work. The project sits on a peatland bog, which is a remnant of an ancient lake left by the glaciers.
Well, these peatlands really store a lot of carbon. Since the last glacial period about 10 or 11,000 years ago in this part of the world, they've accumulated up to 30, even more than that, feet of carbon.
Research is being done here to determine the impacts of a warmer climate on the peatlands. There are numerous enclosures, each set to a temperature warmer than the ambient conditions. This mimics a warmer climate so scientists can study how the ecosystems react. But there's one plant that researchers are most interested in.
And so this is the sphagnum moss. This is the plant that is the keystone species that's really the reason why we got tens of feet of carbon built up.
Over the last 10,000 years, that moss has continued to grow, absorbing carbon from the atmosphere.
So that carbon's been stored for eons, obviously, and if we start warming the climate, that carbon becomes available potentially for decomposition, basically rotting in place, and sending that carbon dioxide and methane back to the atmosphere.
Something interesting happens in peat bogs. The decomposition rate is far slower than other environments. While building the enclosures, researchers came across a log they had to remove. And what looked to be a recently dead tree was actually way older.
It was about 5 feet down, so we could slip into our below-ground chamber. We carbon dated it, and it was about 4,500 years old.
We're here in the warmest enclosure, and what researchers have found so far in the study is there's a lot less of this moss because it's being shaded out by blueberries. So that means less carbon is being stored in our bogs. Researchers are also seeing a significant increase in carbon dioxide and methane being released from the warmer enclosures. While the experiment is ongoing, researchers are surprised at findings so far.
We anticipated when we started the experiment that we would flip these ecosystems from being carbon sinks to sources with warming. We didn't know how much. We didn't know at what temperature that would start to happen. Turns out it's happening at a relatively low increase in temperature, something that's predicted by 2050.
From the Marcel Experimental Forest, Chief Meteorologist Adam Lorch.